Good morning everybody and a very warm welcome to Mildenhall and Districts, and my name's Susanna and I live with trains, and today we're doing something slightly different today. This is about your questions and your comments answered, and if we have any time at the end then maybe we'll do a brief layout update. Otherwise it will be on a separate video, so we'll see how this video comes along, and if it gets on too much then basically we'll leave the layout update for another video. Now, I'd like to apologise first of all because I'm never really the best at returning people's replies, and this is mainly to do with it just bugs me sort of tippy tapping on the phone or on the keyboard, and I'd rather just sort of say it how it is directly and just explain to you in the comments. It's easier for me to just work my way through the comments as I scroll along, which is what I'm doing currently. So if you see that my attention gets kind of drawn over there, it's just purely because I'm reading the comments as I'm trying to answer them and see which ones really need to be answered. Now, the first thing I need to say is, I know it's a bit short notice, but I'm not going to be able to make it to the East Lancs Diesel DMU Gala this weekend, which I'm really gutted about. I really wanted to go. But all things considered, it just wasn't doable. Whether you tried the plane, the train, the coach, the hotel costs, it was just going to be, whichever way you try to slice the cake, you might save in one area, but then it'd be really expensive the other way, and it just really wasn't doable for me, which is a bit of a shame really, because I really wanted to do it. But that doesn't mean that's not going to happen, because obviously next year is another year. And one of the comments that came up on the on the Epinonga Railway video was, I was talking about, let me see who it was, bear with me 1 minute. Somebody mentioned on here about, it was Arthur Thorpe 5445. And I mentioned about doing exhibition videos and stuff like that, and how I don't find them as exciting as I used to, and I don't really feel the need to go to them so much nowadays. Especially with the advent of like YouTube, there's so many more channels to watch on YouTube, so many more great layouts on YouTube that aren't necessarily on the exhibition circuit, which I prefer to watch, and you can watch in the comfort of your own home, as opposed to having all that kind of expense of going to an exhibition and all the other things that go with going to exhibitions. So I was sort of saying about doing more, and he about doing more of this kind of, doing the real heritage railway stuff, and he was saying that that'd be great if I could do some more. So like I said, I'm not going to be going to the East Lancs Railway, which is something else that Arthur Thorpe mentioned if I was going. CSX Renville also asked if I was going to go, and there was also MRAL, the DSM 1304, who also asked whether I was going to go to the East Lancs Railway. And so I won't be going this weekend, which, like I said, I'm really gutted about, because there was a lot there that I really wanted to see. I actually did a little bit of research on the East Lancs Railway, and I did actually watch a cab ride video on the 50 on the East Lancs Railway, and I really wanted to go to it. But I'm not going to be able to go to it, all things considered, like I said. But it's something that next year is really a year that I'm going to really try and do a lot more of that kind of thing. So the next comment we'll have a look at. So I'm now going to be looking at my layout tour video comments. So if you've commented on that, you might get a reply on that. I mean, I'm going for the ones that are really, the ones that say thank you and stuff like that, or it's a good video. I'd like to thank you all for those. Every comment is read and appreciated. And I just wanted to go through some of the specific comments, because otherwise the video can end up going quite long. And I'd like to thank everybody who watched that video, the layout tour video, because that was like one of my more popular videos for quite some time actually, and it's done pretty well. So I'd like to thank everybody who took the time to watch it, everyone who took the time to comment, as I really appreciate it. So like I said, N Scale Dystopia said thank you so much for a comprehensive tour, and everything's looking great, so thank you for that. Thank you for commenting. And Warwick Road Model Railway also put in a nice comment about how much work had gone into it, and that he really liked the look of the GBRF depot, which is thank you very much. Apparently, I think it's PJM models through Key Model World, and I think that's Phil from Pete Waterman's kind of making tracks. I think he's making a GBRF depot. So for you to buy, and I believe it's about £65, and then you can extend it out and make it as long as you want. So if you're interested in something like that, you could possibly have a look at that on the Key Model World website. I believe it's on. However, I made my own, and if you would like to make your own, and you can just follow my videos and make your own via my videos, which are done on the Susanna's Come Build With Me. And then there's a number of people who are saying thank you, which is great. March West Junction also said awesome, which is thank you so much. And it said it looks amazing. Well, it's just years of work, isn't it? And the layout's getting to a point now where there's pretty much scenery everywhere. I don't think there's a part of the layout that hasn't got scenery on it. So and I tend to watch a lot of this, and there's a lot of this going around. And I watch a lot of American stuff, and there's always like a thing between. There seems to be a lot of this going on where people talk about different types of scenery. So, and what I mean by that is when people are building their layouts, you get people that turn around and go, "I'd like to put the basic scenery down," and then you go back. And then once you've done all the basic scenery, then you go back and you start adding all the extra bits and pieces to really start bringing it to life. And that's kind of where I'm at with the layout at the moment, because every single part of the layout has got pretty much 99%, I think, if not 100% of the layout is pretty much got scenery on it. It's just the level of scenery now. Now it's about taking it up to the next level of, like, you know, bringing that extra detail in it, whether it be people, whether it be rubbish bags or something like, even the finer details. And I'm now finding myself going through all my spares boxes and whatever I've got and looking at it going, can I use this? Can I do that? Maybe I can add this over there. And I've been finding things like, and I'll show you if we do the layout update, even such things like pillar boxes, telephone boxes, bus stops, things like that maybe you don't really notice, but all these little things kind of add to the scenery, and it just makes it look so much better. Let's see who else. And Barry Stark also put in a mention about the work that I've done to the layout and what I've said about exhibitions. And Duncan Watson also said, I love my layout, that he loves my layout. The weathering looks fantastic. When the time comes, I hope to be as good as you. Good tunnel mouth, thank you. The weathering is I'm just picking it up as I go along. I'm not an expert on weathering, not by any stretch. There is some stuff that is pre-weathered, like as in factory weathered, but I have been experimenting a lot, especially with containers, because I always find that and that's something that I've said I was going to do a video on, and I will end up doing a video on it at some point soon, where you can actually mess about with containers because they're relatively cheap and easy to mess around with without sort of like damaging your layout or damaging your locos or anything like that. So it's quite inexpensive. So it's a good way to sort of experiment with weathering, and that's what I've been doing. And as I've been progressing, I've been trying to do a little bit more elsewhere, and sort of, you know, trying to push the boat out a little bit more and try and improve on my weathering. But I don't own an airbrush or anything like that. So yeah. Darren Faulkner mentioned about my Freightliner depot. Sorry about the pause. I was just kind of reading through the layout, and he's talking about Guidebridge Depot. And so Guidebridge Depot is where my inspiration for my Freightliner terminal building has come from. And the only reason why I find out about these places is, again, I watch a lot of videos, and one of the videos that I tend to watch comes from Don Coffey, as well as many others who do cab rides, but Don Coffey does some really great cab rides, some really insightful ones. And as I'm watching the cab rides, it's almost like homework, it's research. It's not like I'm just sitting there watching a cab ride, kind of just watching it going from A to B and that's it. I'm sort of looking at the line side scenery and looking at the track. I'm looking at everything and sort of trying to pick up little cues and things like that, and trying to sort of go, oh, I like that. I think maybe I can incorporate on my layout. And Guide Bridge came from that when he went round Guide Bridge on a Freightliner service, I think it was, or one of the other cab rides. And I looked at it and I thought that looks great, and I could possibly model that. And you kind of get inspiration from things like that. So it's good to watch cab ride videos as well. Let's see. Model Railway Shed mentioned the lighting. Yeah, that's the thing. This layout's got a lot of lighting on it, and it's something that I've done. I did a video on it, on how I've done it, on how I actually make my own lighting, because lighting can be very, very expensive. So if you can make your own, you could save yourself quite a bit of money. So let's see who else. Right, so the librarian 46 said, "Hi Susanna, thank you for the fascinating tour of your layout. I think the detail is brilliant, and you can really feel that you are there as a passenger, perhaps waiting for a train or at one of the stations and going on a trip, such as a walk in the countryside adjacent to the scenic area. Or getting off at the branch line station. The only feature I didn't see was the quarry, so is that still there?" Right, okay. So the whole point of this layout, which I've always liked, is the sense of purpose, the sense of journey. And so it isn't a case of, I see a lot of modelers that turn around and say, I just like to sit there and watch the trains go round and around and around, which is perfectly fine, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. It's just that I'm not one of those modelers. I actually, and like I said, it's not being disrespectful, that's just saying that there's different types of people doing different types of modelling. But I've always liked the idea of having a sense of purpose to the layout, whether it be through passenger traffic or whether it be through freight. And so in terms of freight, it's like having things to do, like using the feeder yard to maybe go to the container yard, load up the containers and go back, or maybe go to Goswell Sidings, pick up some wagons that are there, bring them to the wagon works, get them swapped out and then bring back other ones. So there's always a sense of purpose, something to do. Passenger traffic is quite self-explanatory. There's a number of stations, so you can pick a few stations to get off from here to there and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I've always viewed it. Berringen Districts was also the same, which is why this layout is called Mildenhall and Districts and not just called say Mildenhall or just like that. It's got the districts because the idea of the districts is that it goes from one part to another part. So essentially Mildenhall and Mildenhall Districts, so Mildenhall Riverside is like in one side of the country maybe, and St Anne's is in another part of the country, so there's that sense of purpose of connecting the two ends together. So that's why it's called Mildenhall and Districts. As far as the quarry was concerned, that is no longer there. I no longer have it, really because I wasn't really using it, and it was also a bit of a pain with the track plan and the track configuration, and that's where I've moved the carriage sidings that's at the front. That's now gone to the back, which has then allowed me to create a bigger Freightliner depot at the front. So it's kind of all been moved around, but it all works, and I'm happy with the way things are. I'm not sure if the quarry is going to come back, because I don't think that is, because I'm still planning on doing the heritage line, although I haven't done it yet or even started it yet. And I have been going through my mind whether or not I'm going to carry on with the heritage line, because there was a school of thought that maybe I could put another industry state, like putting the quarry back, and also, or whether or not to possibly extend the rail network, the passenger network, and maybe not have the heritage line and just have another station right in the corner. So it seems like it's got an even further distance to travel, and that's another school of thought. And if you have any thoughts on this, if you think that could be a good idea, please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear what you think. But at the moment, it's still supposed to be the heritage line that's going to run from Mildenhall Riverside over into that far corner. Right, Dinmore Junction asked me about, he's received his 300 sub. Do you remember when you did? And he sort of said, and he said on that video, apparently I don't actually remember, but he sort of said to me that it was when I had my roundy layout at the front before I'd extended it. So, well, good on you for letting me know that, because I couldn't quite remember, to be honest. And then after Devil's Coachman sort of said to me about if I needed spares for a HST to let him know, which is really not kind of you, so thank you so much. And he also asked, do I intend to have a Bachmann Freightliner Class 90 to the fleet? I do actually like the Bachmann Class 90 Freightliner with the orange. I think it looks really cool. I'm not sure if I'd have one on the layout because it doesn't really quite work. It's one of those that I bought the 86 and that's gone. And so, because that was an electric and it doesn't really fit in with the layout as much. So I'm not sure if I will get one. I do like them, but I can't see me getting one of those. So in this next little section, I want to talk to you about the Hornby Bazaar DMU Network rail video that I put up and some of the comments that I got on that. And thank you for all those who commented. Nicholas Stagg 4657 said, great video, better support your local model shop than Amazon. So, and I, you know, and she also said, wish you had some NEM couplings though. Right. Support your local model shop. I will always support my local model shop for pretty much everything that I can possibly get. But there are exceptions. And let me talk to you about some of the exceptions. So there's no sort of comprehension, no mishap, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no ambiguity about why I do what I do. Essentially, I always support my local model shop, but there is a but. I've got three really that I sort of have. I have Paul, which I talk about often in the Alton Model Centre. I also have Terry over at the Hampshire Models, and I also have another one in Basingstoke called Church Street Models. He's the one I kind of use the least because he's right in town centre, and I don't always have the time to get up there to actually, because if I have a short break, I don't have time, and because of the way my working pattern is, I always tend to work in the evening, so he always tends to be closed. As far as Terry's concerned, at Hampshire Models, he's also local in terms of where I work, because he's round the corner. I tend to go to him quite a lot, and I tend to go to him quite a lot for my second-hand stuff. So whenever I'm trading stuff in, he's the guy that I tend to take my stuff to. Purely because I've said this before, I just don't want the hassle of going through eBay. So, and I might get into that because I've already explained it on another video, but that's the reason why I tend to go to him. But I do find, generally speaking, that his prices tend to be a bit higher than most. So I tend not to buy a huge amount from him outright, because I find that his prices are kind of, like I said, a bit more expensive than some others. And when you're sort of looking at doing considered purchases, I did sort of say on the video that you can, you could some of this stuff that you're buying, including the DMU that I'm talking about, you could be saving yourself a tenner, maybe £20, depending on where you shop. So it's not like you kind of think to yourself, well, okay, I'll get it from my local model shop and save, you might spend a bit extra. But ultimately, you know, it's a business for them, and they say, well, you know, I can't do it any lower or whatever. That's how it is, and it's fine. I haven't got no problem with that. But me as a shopper and a consumer, I like to shop around. And when I bought the DMU, I didn't actually know whether or not Paul had it or not, but I don't think it would have been much different in price in any case. And whilst I was there, I bought it in Fleet. So so from my point of view, I was there, I saw it, had it in the hand. It wasn't going to be much different in price, so I bought it. But I do spend a lot of money with Paul. I tend not to spend the bigger money with him anymore. And a lot of it is to do with the way we live nowadays in the modern world. When a lot of people are sort of looking at buying things from the model railway, to be honest, sometimes there's more important things to life than the model railway. And that's just how it is. And so sometimes when you want stuff for the model railway, and it is a bit of a push to get it because it's quite expensive, whether it's worth £300 or £400, I like to do things in maybe instalments sometimes. I mean, because I mean, if you've got, like, say, a couple of pre-orders like I have, you know, that could be hundreds of pounds. And like, you don't necessarily have those hundreds of pounds as an outlay to just say, here you go. So sometimes you have to break it down. And what I mean by that is, like I said, instalments. And Paul doesn't really do that. He doesn't do PayPal. He's literally just kind of like, you know, card, cash, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't take in second-hand locomotives either. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking him. I mean, that's just the way he does business. But it doesn't suit me. So, for me to sometimes raise money, it's like I've said before on many occasions, the money that comes from the railway goes back into the railway. So, if I sell stuff to Terry, I can use that money, you know, either with him or to put back into the railway elsewhere. But like I said, you know, I don't use Amazon a huge amount in any case. But like I said, like many of us, when you've got to watch what you're spending, you're trying to have your cake and eat it. You're trying to have that balance of your hobby and your life. So sometimes it might mean that you have to find other ways of either sort of subsidising your railway or paying for the railway, rather than, you know, like I said, I would always like to go to Paul for it and sort of pay for things with Paul. But because he doesn't offer certain services, it puts me off, and I can't really go there because it doesn't suit me. But like I said, I do spend a lot of money in there. In fact, I spent quite a bit of money in there yesterday. So even though I don't spend money, let's say, like big money in terms of locos, in terms of EMUs and stuff, I don't tend not to buy it from him. But I do buy a lot of track from him. All the track comes from him. A lot of the track comes from him. Points comes from him. Paints come from him. Plastic card comes from him. Most of that stuff, the day-to-day stuff, will come from him. Right. The next. Let's see who else. Lucerton James had mentioned that the 101 had come from the older ones, which I kind of guessed, but it's just like an updated version of the Lima stuff, really. So let's just see, he's putting quite a lot. And a few other people. Ronald Morit also said that he found it strange that the couplings weren't married up, which I found it very, very, very strange. And he's also said that he's converted them to West Hill Wagon Works. Apparently, Andrew Calladine 2507. Sorry if I didn't get that right. Apparently, he reckons that Hornby might be producing the 101 sound profile for the HM7000 next year. Right, and then after some Model Railway Noob said that he was going to get a Hornby one, but decided against it and was going to get a different one and get that resprayed. Model Railway Shed, Dino was saying that the only thing that puts him off is the not having any lighting capability on the DMU. You can put your own lighting, and I know it's a bit of a pain, and especially if you're, I mean, I have done it before on a 73 where I converted a 73 Hornby which didn't have lights, but I did put a light in it, so you can do it. But if you're not proficient at it, or you're not confident, I can see what you mean. Arthur Thorpe also mentioned about decouplings, and Ivor Junction Danny also said that I tempted him into getting one. So we'll see how that pans out. And also Andy from Marchwest Junction also took the time to comment and said, just mentioned the decouplings. So it seems to be quite a sort of reoccurring theme. Like I said, I don't quite understand why they put one end differently to the other end. I really don't get that, but hey. And John from Piccadilly sort of said that it is made for beginners really, and that it is ripe for an upgrade, but that is true. But like I said, if you're just getting into the hobby and you're just new to the hobby and you want to get into it, it's one of those locomotives that you can just sort of buy and sort of take a bit of a chance on, and you haven't spent a huge amount of money on. Run it and see if you enjoy it and see where it leads you. You know, it might encourage you to do more. And Rob D2184 also says this, exactly the same thing. You know, the railroad range does serve a purpose, which is true. It's like I said, you know, you're not going to spend 300 quid on a loco for a little Johnny to play around with, you know, and then after about 2 months he kind of gets bored of it and then it just gets put to one side. So yeah, I can see the value in the railroad range, and I still think it's a good quality item. And like I said in my last video, you know, not everything has to be all singing and dancing on the layout for me anyway. You know, there's lots of good stuff that isn't necessarily all that overly expensive. Stormy doesn't think it is good value for money, in his opinion. But I disagree, to be honest. And I mean, everyone has their own opinions, but because, I mean, you couldn't get, you know, for 120, that wouldn't get you very much in the Bachmann range or in the full Hornby range. I mean, I know you can get, you know, some second-hand examples, but you're talking about a 2-car unit here, which is brand new. You're not talking about a second-hand example. So I don't think it is bad value. That's just my opinion. And just about managing UK, which is very interesting name. It says, great watch and very interesting. I've been watching these videos from you and others, and it's amazing. I'm a complete beginner and I'd like to get started. Anyone have any suggestions or recommendations for my first purchase? Well, that's a hard one, because it really depends on your outlook in terms of, I mean, there's so many things to consider. You've got space, you've got era, you know, in terms of what you want to model. Do you want to model steam? Do you want to model diesel? If you want to model steam or diesel, kind of which era do you want? You know, do you want to go early 80s? It depends. For me, my first, well, actually, it wasn't really my first purchase. My mum and dad bought me a train set, which was a Hornby HST blue grey one back in the late 70s, where it was literally an oval track in a box with 2 power cars, a single coach, Mark III coach, and the clunky power unit, which was just like step 1, step 2, step 3. There was no slow running or anything. It was just literally, you could just feel the train just going through the various power settings. And a lot of it is to do with, I guess, for many modelers, it's to do with memories. But I guess what I would say is just take something that you just fancy. You know, have a look, see what's out there, and if you like the look of it, like I said just earlier, just go for something that you fancy that maybe isn't so expensive, and see where it takes you. Run it for a while, and you know, you might think to yourself, well, actually I don't want to do it, put it to one side and not really use it again. But it might take you on to other things, and you kind of go, oh, I'm really enjoying this. Maybe if I put a station here, or maybe if I extend it out here. It doesn't have to be like a big layout. You can even just make a small layout, you know, like a little shelf end-to-end layout, which I did, and that's plenty enough for some modelers. And so you just see how you get on with it. If you want to ask any further questions, please do. But as far as recommending anything, like I said, it depends on and again, it depends on your finances. If you're not sure, I'd probably say go for something that's like in the railroad range, because that's something that's relatively cheap. So if you make a mistake, for example, and you think to yourself, oh, you know, this isn't for me, then you haven't made a huge outlay on it. You know, you don't, because obviously model railway, it can be very expensive, you know. So I'd sort of go down that road if you know. So again, like I said, it depends on your finances, your space, your gauge. That's something else, you know, and that space and gauge may go hand in hand. So if you haven't got much space, you might want to go down the N gauge route or something like that. And then see what the variety is of what you want, you know, what area you want to model. These are all things to bear in mind. Okay, so this video has been going on for about half an hour now. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm not going to bother doing the layout update. I will leave that for another video. So I hope you found this interesting, and I'd like to apologise for not being able to make it to the East Lancs Railway. I really wanted to go, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. But next year I will be looking to do far more heritage railway stuff and less of the exhibition circuits. So until the next time, my name's Susanna and I live with trains. Goodbye.